back. I will call the March 10th, 2025 City of Allegan City Council meeting to order. And Michaela, roll call, please.
Sure. Councilmember Canales. Here. Councilmember Hooker. Here. Councilmember Walker.
Here.
Councilmember Westover.
Present.
Councilmember Zeger.
Present.
Mayor Pro Tem Morgan.
Here.
And Mayor Perigo.
Here.
You have a quorum.
All right, thank you. All right, if we can please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Great. All right, moving down to agenda item number 4 is the approval of March 10th, 2025 amended agenda. There is one amendment, which is 11F4, a request from Allegan Folklife. Can I get a motion to approve the amended agenda?
Make a motion to approve the amended agenda.
Second.
All right, it's been moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, no. All right, motion passes. Agenda item number 5 is approval of the regular meeting minutes from February 24th, 2025. Did anyone have any corrections? No? Can I get a motion to approve as is?
Motion to approve as is.
Thank you.
Support.
All right, it's been moved and supported. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion passes. All right, we can move down to agenda item number 7. 7A is first reading of Ordinance 528, amending Chapter 7, Building Regulations, Article 2, Rental Registration and Scheduling a second reading and public hearing for Ordinance 528 for March 24th, 2025. Does staff have anything?
Sure, just real quick for council and anybody who may be watching this at home. At your previous meeting, we discussed several issues with our current rental inspection ordinance and process that we need to smooth over. One of those issues with the ordinance was it states that the city will pay for the inspection fees and not the landlords. So this ordinance addresses that. This ordinance has been reviewed by our city attorney. This ordinance has been reviewed by PCI, who does the inspections for us. And then I did mail this out to one landlord who did not respond to me. So we have some other things we need to smooth out with the program, but since our ordinance approval process is a 2-reading process and can take, up to a month, we wanted to get this in for a first reading for tonight. But this is the ordinance you saw at the last meeting.
So there is, when you just said smooth out some more of the wording, there will be.
Not in this ordinance. This ordinance, the other smoothing out is going to occur in the letter that goes out.
Okay.
Right now, the letter is written in such a manner that it appears that it's PCI requiring this. When it's not, it's the city requiring this. So we've amended that letter to have the city logo on it. We are talking to them about showing the fee schedule that is adopted by city council through a resolution on how we assess those fees per property, per building, per unit, et cetera, just so it's clear there. So some implementation issues we have to, we have to smooth out there. But the ordinance itself, this new ordinance that we're having a first reading on tonight, in its current version is what we feel is the best step forward. And as I mentioned, our city attorney has reviewed it, and so has PCI.
Okay. Any other council members have any questions or comments? And this does require a motion.
Yeah, so you're doing a motion
To
to
schedule
hold the
the
first
second reading.
reading and schedule a public hearing. And that public hearing will be for March 24th, 2025.
All right.
I do have a quick question. Oh, the city's building official would be then who?
So our building official is PCI. So Brett, so right now it's Brett Regdring. Yeah, so it's nobody on staff.
Madam Mayor, I make a motion that we schedule the public hearing for ordinance 528 for March 24th, 2025.
All right, thank you. Support. Okay, it's been moved and supported. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. All right, motion passes. Okay, we're going to move down to 8A is a second reading, public hearing, and adoption of Ordinance 527 for the rezoning of 100 Monroe Street and 565 Water Street from C1 to C2. Did staff have anything they wanted to say?
Sure.
Or a refresher of?
I like the sound of my voice. I'll give a quick
All right.
introduction if that's okay with you, Mayor Perigo.
That is great.
Sure, thank you. Yeah, so just a reminder, this is the second reading for rezoning of Ordinance 527 to rezone 100 Monroe Street and 565 Water Street from C1 to C2. In the 2023, the City Planning Commission and City Council updated their master plan. Land in this general area, specifically these two parcels, are planned for general commercial. When you look at our zoning ordinance, C2 is our general commercial zoning ordinance, zoning district, where C1 is our downtown zoning district, more or less. So since the master plan calls for this to be general commercial, city staff feels it's appropriate to do what's called truth in zoning and rezone these two parcels to match what the master plan calls for.
All right, and with this change, is Village Market putting up a new signage? Can you?
Sure. So with this change, the property owners will have the opportunity to put up a different signage in that general area. Whether they will do that or not, I do not know.
Okay. All right.
So that was not allowed then in the C1?
So, yeah, so C1 has, the phrase I would use, restrictive signage, where C2 allows for pole signs. In C1, you can't put up a pole sign.
All right, and this requires a public hearing, so I will open the public hearing at 6:07. I do not see anyone here for commenting on the public hearing on this ordinance, so I am going to close the public hearing. All right, any council discussion before I ask for a motion? Nope, all right. All right, can I get a motion to adopt ordinance 527?
I make a motion to adopt ordinance 527. I'll second.
All right, it's been moved and supported. All those in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Motion passes. All right, moving down to agenda item number 9 is public comment. There is no public, but I will state if there is a public comment, please approach a podium, state your name and address, and we give 3 minutes. All right. Seeing no public comment, I'm going to move down to agenda item number 11B, which is our finance department. 11B1 is a request to approve accounts payable and payroll. And our Mayor Pro Tem Morgan, would you like to walk us through that?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Accounts payable of $938,556.26. Payroll of $127,752.30. Total of $1,066,308.56. Madam Mayor, I make a motion that we accept this and pay the bills.
All right.
I'll second.
All right, it's been moved and supported. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion passes. 11B2 is a review of the 2026 fee schedule and approved vendor list. It's like city staff. Tracy?
Yep, I'll take this one. Enclosed in your packets, you were provided with a fee schedule and a pre-approved vendor list. These are for you guys to review and ask questions about, make clarifications on before we adopt the budget in May. So if there's anything that you guys see that we should be charging fees for, or things that are on there that we're not, doing those kinds of things, and ask questions and make sure the rates are set the way that you guys see them. Each one of these sheets is, per department, so between Joel and I, we should be able to answer any questions that you guys have on particular departments, but each department is responsible for reviewing this and making sure that things are accurate. And the pre-approved vendor list specifically, we try to keep that to things that we pay all the time so that it doesn't prevent us from, it just helps us stay more efficient in that with paying our regular bills like, Ace Hardware, True Value, our insurance bills, things like that. One thing that Joel and I wanted to note is that we're still working with the rate making vendor, Baker Tilly, for setting our water and sewer rates. Some of the things that you see highlighted in those sheets in your packets are because they are still under review. So those are just the things that I would note. Joel, I don't know if there's anything else you would want to add, or?
No, I think you covered most of it. You are not approving these tonight.
Right.
These are approved as part of the budget. So, but if you see something like that, that's why we want you to be able to, just spend some time, go through them. As Tracy mentioned, all department heads and staff that oversee a program or something have, looked at these already. They've gone through them. It doesn't mean that, something that slipped through the cracks. So if something does look a little awkward to you, please reach out to Tracy and I via email, and then we'll, note that. And if we have to sit down and discuss things, we can sit down and discuss things. And the biggest one is water and sewer rates. We have no idea where we're landing on that right now. We have to wait for Baker Tilly to give us the financial rate projections, or the final rate projections.
Will there be a time for discussion next meeting, or should we just set a time and come on in?
Set a time and come on in if you have some serious issues with these rates. We aren't looking to increase any or much of the rates. We're doing some increases to our industrial, septic receiving that we're throwing in there. We're showing increases for our airport, the new hangars that are being constructed. Those tenants are gonna pay a little more than the people in the older hangars. But long story short, there isn't a significant increase in stuff as we look through here. But yeah, and then, if a couple council members have a handful of questions, we're gonna, be talking about the budget pretty much at each meeting moving forward. So we'll have opportunities to discuss this stuff more if you guys feel you'd rather have a larger discussion about a fee or something. It only takes 2 council members to get an agenda item on the agenda. So it's usually not too hard. And the mayor, it only takes the mayor, so you can always just ask the mayor to do it too.
Anyone else?
I mean, if you saw something between the packet going out on Thursday afternoon and tonight, we can discuss things right now.
I just have general
Sure. Fire.
questions of what they are, so I don't know the best time to bring that up.
I think it's good anytime. I mean, others
Yeah.
can learn and, maybe
Yeah,
they had the same question.
I'd recommend ask now, and if we don't have answers, then we can set those meetings up with you, Will. But what questions do you have?
Good, okay. We'll start from the top. So, I think that was answered. Well, question, why'd you go to time and materials on just, service tap on any of them, 1 inch, whatever, 2 inch, doesn't matter. But why that change? I guess it was last year, 2025. And for next year, what rationale did that time and materials plus 20% instead of a fixed number?
Sure, because regardless the size of the pipe, each project is a different animal. So one might be a really short front yard, and they're gonna spend little time out there digging it up, connecting it, putting it through. One road might have a concrete subbase compared to a sand subbase. So if you're trying to break through the concrete subbase, It's gonna be a little more effort. So that's why we made that change to time and material last year.
Gotcha, makes sense.
I'm trying to give you two complete opposite examples for you, because,
Makes sense, yeah.
Yeah, and it's more fair, because we found in some situations where, like with Joel's examples, if we charge a flat $3,500 and it's a real simple fix, it doesn't seem fair, so we changed it to time and materials plus an admin fee.
Okay, okay. Service disconnect, I see the difference between if someone didn't pay the bill and their service gets shut off, that's relatively cheap, was it, I think $50 or something? But then, what's a case where you have service disconnect or reconnect, $2,500, what's an example of that service?
sure, so I have a house in the city of Allegan. I am gonna vacate that house. I don't wanna pay the ready-to-serve fee every month. And we're gonna say, okay, then you have to pay a complete reconnection fee. And then you have to pay another connection fee when you wanna come back on, if you don't wanna pay that ready-to-serve fee. Because that ready-to-serve fee is used to pay for the pipes in the ground that were ready to do it. So if you want to completely disconnect from our system, there's a fee to disconnect from our system. Because the cost of maintaining all those pipes are borne by the citizenship of the whole. And just one property owner can't say, I don't want to pay this RTS just because I'm going to move to Arizona for 2 years, but I don't want to sell my house because I want to come back to Allegan. So that's what that fee is there for. And you're going to correct me if I misspeak, right?
Yeah, and then another situation is if a house burns down, sometimes they'll have it permanently disconnected because they don't plan to rebuild on it. So then, because even if your house burns down, you still have to pay that ready-to-serve fee on your property. So that's just another example.
Are those similar to?
Well, was your microphone on?
No.
Okay. People are watching at home, I guess.
Are those similar to other similar-sized towns? I'm not familiar with those kind of fees at all.
If I recall, ours are very cheap compared to some,
Wow,
yeah.
okay.
Some of the fees, if you compare water and sewer to other communities, some are a little bit higher, some are a lot higher than ours.
Okay, okay. Almost done.
You're fine. This is what we're supposed to do.
Good. That answers that one as well. What, just last question, what's adopt a landscape area? Just, what is that?
Okay, what page are you on? Parks? Page 29, adopt a landscape area. So historically, this is a hold off from years gone by. They used to have adopt a plot or adopt a planter is what they used to have, where a business could pay to fund a planter. Public Spaces in the DDA this year wanted to see with the new streetscape, what if we came up with something where a local business could adopt one of those landscaped areas. So this is our first foray into saying, yeah, if they want to adopt one of those landscape areas, this is what it would look like, and this is what would, they would pay. Some of ours, like our tree wells, like along Locust where there's just a tree, that would probably be considered a small area. We have some that are a little bit larger tree wells, those would be the mediums, but those long landscaped ones, like down at the corner of Water and Hubbard, that would be a large landscape area. The one in front of 155 Brady at the intersection of Brady, Locust, and Hubbard, that would be a large one. So we put those fees in here now so we could create a base level or some infrastructure. Parker and his crew now have to go out and identify all those, number all those. And so when someone says, hey, I want to adopt the tree place that's in front of my business, we can, assign that tree well to this business kind of a thing, or this Boy Scout group, or this Lions Club, or whomever wants to pay the money for it. And all that funding then will be to offset our annual, costs with, planting and maintaining that throughout the year.
Okay. Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. Anyone else have any further questions? All right, okay.
And just real quick, I believe that idea was actually Councilmember Canales' idea, that we should be able to adopt those landscape areas.
All right, well, thank you, Councilperson Canales. All right, let's move down to 11E1, which is a discussion regarding potential improvements to the youth baseball and softball fields at the sports complex.
Okay, I want to spend some time with the council talking about the sports complex. For those of you that have been involved in city politics, or not city politics, but city government for the past 8 years since I've been here, you will notice that there's been a recurring theme with me about the sports complex. Where we are right now is that the sports complex located there, I'm going to call it off 29th Street, which is off Hooker, just south of the airport. It is outside the city limits, but the city owns it. Little side note here, the Office of the Great Seal in Lansing, which regulates all jurisdictional boundaries, has been working with the city clerk and myself, or really the city clerk, because I punted it all onto Michaela's shoulders, to figure out what makes us think that this is in the city limits, because their maps show it's in the city limits, but they can't find anything saying it's in the city limits. So there's just some underlying goofiness with this parcel. What is clear is that the city does own it. You have youth soccer programs that occur out there. You have youth baseball programs that occur out there. And recently they have started youth softball out at this site. As I explained in my report, items identified on the screen by one are Little League type baseball fields, grass infields, fences that are 200 feet from home plate, base paths that are 60 feet, pitcher's mound to home is 45 feet. That's your typical Little League type baseball field. Number 3 is what you would consider a pony league field. This is where the pitcher's mound is now 60 feet 6 inches, like it is in the Professional Baseball League, the MLB. Base paths are 90 feet, and from home to dead center is 300 feet. Not quite MLB, but like high school. And then number 2 is really an adult softball field. The base path, the pitcher's mound to home plate is 45 feet. The base paths are 60 feet. Adults don't want to run the full 90 when they're playing softball for some reason. But you have a deeper skin infield. That dirt is called a skin infield. You have a deeper one because the shortstop and the third baseman play further back, because if it's full-grown men playing softball, some of those guys can really rocket it down the third base line, the shortstop side. When I played adult softball in Holland for 10 years, that was not me. I was what you call a Texas Little Leaguer. I would just do a little blooper over the shortstop's head and sprint and run out of breath by the time I got to first base. The person behind me did not like batting because he could only get a single, because I only advanced one base at a time, was my philosophy. I reached out to Allegan Youth Baseball last year, since they started girls softball, but they were playing on an adult softball league. And I was of the mindset, what would it take for us to remove the grass from one of those 4 Little League baseball fields and turn it into a true girls softball field with a flat mound and everything? And would they even be interested in doing it? They responded this year with a quote from Westling Services to remove the grass from all 4 of those Little League baseball fields and have all dirt and fields. what they shared with us, this is common with the teams they play from Lawton, Dowagiac, Bangor, small towns south of here. I shared with them that was not my experience where my kids played baseball in the Holland, Zealand area where they had grass infields, but dirt infields I know are commonplace as well for baseball. They said that Westing shared a quote that he could do it for $20,000 for all 4 fields. Upon reviewing that quote with Todd Neldon, who maintains the fields over there for the city of Allegan, he's a city DPW employee, Jeff Morey, our assistant DPW director, and Doug Hodsman, our DPW director, they do not believe that Westing is removing enough of that soil to make sure the grass doesn't grow back. So we met with Westing, and he goes, oh yeah, of course the grass is gonna grow back, because we weren't cutting a full 8 inches down. And this is a very fertile area. The grass grows wild out here. So Billy redid his numbers, and for 1 field, it would cost $20,000. We shared that with youth baseball. They took it to their board meeting, and essentially last Sunday, I received an email that stated that the majority of their board disagreed with the city's analysis and wanted to know what the city would be willing to cover towards the grass removal. It's staff's opinion that if we're gonna do anything out there, we need to do it right. If we approach this through a lens of just getting by, then we're gonna end up with a subpar playing surface out there. And at the end of the day, when we're dealing with quality of life and services to our kids, I don't believe we want to end with something that's subpar. We did not get a response from them after that email saying, hey, we want to make sure we do this right. And we also asked exactly what did they disagree when Westing also agreed with us that you'd have to cut down to 8 inches. My question for council, and probably some discussion for council, there's not a formal ask in front of you, but what would it look like if you guys would be supportive of doing any improvements out at that sports complex? That is the question.
For me at this time, I'm not supportive. I just feel the city has other needs. And I know my previous time on council, we've done different surveys, we've worked, and I am not saying I'm not here to support the kids, but it's the city taxpayers that are paying for the maintenance of this field, and my understanding from past time on council, the majority of the youth that are using this are not city residents. And I don't want to have to draw that line, but again, we're a small city. I keep saying this over and over. We only have so much money to do things, and this isn't a priority for me. They've been using these fields as is, and so I don't know what putting money into this is going to change them. You know, it's not like they're not going to use these next year or this year. That's my opinion.
I'd have to agree with Madam Mayor. $80,000 will fix Oakwood Cemetery. Okay, instead of $80,000, yeah, the youth of our community is very, very important, but how about just doing one? Can we do just one, Joel? For 20?
So to answer that question, yes, it is the city's fields. So we may do as we please out here. And that's where my, that's where, you know, my own personal opinion, I don't know if this is a professional opinion or advice. We enjoyed coaching our kids on grass infields when they were little boys playing baseball. It felt like the real thing for them. Our kids enjoyed it. When they got relegated to the all dirt infield as 10-year-olds, again, different scenario. Probably my kids might have been different. The kids I coached, not just my biological kids, but they were like, we're on the little kids field where we play t-ball. We want to be on the grass field, where the 12-year-olds are. So, my opinion, they disagree with that. They think everyone's going to dirt infields, and I push back a little bit. I think 1 or 2 as a dirt infield is good. I would not recommend that we get rid of the other grass infields. I think we need to keep that level of, we should compare ourselves to the communities we want to be like, not the communities that we may be like right now. So yeah, I would not recommend the city put more, if anything, into this. My approach to them was, what would it take? Would the community be able to fund something like this?
Well, yeah, and I mean, the community did a great job with Mahan Park. And, the people that enjoy that park and want to see its success came out. So I would love to see something like that for here, the people that are using it, getting involved in funding it. I believe, I don't know, I'm just going off memory. It seems like this was like a $70,000 yearly spend to maintain this sports complex. Is that still accurate?
Yeah, so the biggest, and Tracy can dive into those numbers more if needed. The biggest cost there is one of our DPW workers is more or less there
Yeah.
all summer long. And then in the off-season, they're plowing the mile-long track around the walking trail. We plow there, so it's a little less in the wintertime, but that cost comes from personnel.
Yeah. And I do, sorry not to hog everybody. So I am curious of what you started out with. Why is the state asking about this parcel?
They just reached out to us.
You don't know why? I mean, I'm just curious of why are they looking at this and why are they questioning who, where the boundaries are with this?
So I can add a little context. So with this parcel, the parcel number is actually an Allegan Township parcel number. And they were questioning why the city never formally annexed this property.
Okay.
So I did some digging. I did find the deed that says that the city of Allegan owns this parcel, and we sent that to the Boundary Commission. So hopefully we will be on track to annex this property eventually, and then it will have a city parcel number, but that's kind of the background.
Okay. They're cleaning up their records.
They're cleaning up our records.
Or, yeah, vice versa.
So what do you need from us, Joel, for just doing one maybe?
I just need to, I think council needs to, it's a new council, I think you need to spend a few minutes. What do you want the sports complex to be? At all facets, what do you want it to be? I mean, I walked it Saturday, I walked to my house with my dog after we did the whole loop, walked back to my, it's it's an amazing area. So, and then how do we engage with the schools as well as the youth sports organizations?
I love how we have so many neat areas in the city, but it's like, do we have too many? Sometimes it's like, all right, how many more can we add on to this thing? But, all right.
The soccer fields out there are amazing. I've been all over the state to different soccer fields, and those are great. Parks, not parks anymore. Public spaces is talking about in the far, far end, down at the bottom of that page, that little rectangular parcel. They're talking about making that into some kind of
Like a native flowers.
correct.
and
Native
grasses,
flower
yeah.
/ butterfly.
Correct.
Yeah, they were talking
Park.
about that when I was on public spaces. so
And they're
let's
still
do
talking
it.
about it.
Yeah, so
And they're
let's do
very
it.
wanting to push forward to that, so.
Yeah, 'cause it's a inexpensive way of,
Taking care of the
Putting it to
property,
better
they don't have
use
to mow it that way.
and making it less maintenance.
Yep.
Reducing costs too.
Yes, Carl. I was gonna say, Councilperson Canales, get that done, because, I mean, when I was on public spaces, which is probably 4 years ago now, we were talking about that.
If you can postpone the snowstorm for the next one, I'll see what I can do.
All right.
But as far as this is concerned, I don't really fully understand the necessity for these changes that they want to make. Do we need to bring in somebody who knows more about this or something?
Sure, so,
Do they really,
so if you're a 10-year-old girl
yeah,
and you're told you gotta play on field number 2, that's like taking your 10-year-old daughter and giving her your 43-year-old mom's high heels and saying, wear them to school. They are not being given the opportunity to play on fields that are designed for them. And so from my perspective, and this becomes a personal and also a professional recommendation or advice, we need to look out for people who can't look out for themselves. And we need to honor them and, celebrate them. And that's what started the whole conversation with them, is how can we convert one of the Little League fields to a girls' softball field so it is designed appropriately for their level of
Okay,
play.
that's what I needed to know. I didn't
Okay,
know there was
yeah.
a difference.
There's a big difference. Number two is designed for 30-year-old men that still think they can play sports. Patrick started an adult softball league there 2 years ago. Yeah, it was pre-COVID, I think, actually.
Is it still going? Okay.
No, they were doing it at, the other park.
Oh, at Little John?
Little John.
Yeah, for a little bit. I think it's disbanded though.
Yeah.
Is there any room around there just to add one?
There is not. And it would cost more to build one than just to remove the grass from one, level the mound, cap the irrigation.
Are they talking about doing one of the Little League diamonds or the?
Yeah.
Okay, so the number ones then.
Yeah, one of the number ones. And the recommendation would be, you weren't at that meeting. I believe the recommendation would be the one that's in the southwest corner. So the one closest to 29th Street and the one closest to the parking lot.
Correct.
Because that's the one that we have the hardest to get the grass to grow on the infield, as you can tell by that aerial photo.
Bottom left.
Yep, bottom left. Thank you.
That would be my recommendation, just to do one. And that way it is set up appropriately for the girls softball.
And do we have that $20,000 allocated already in the budget?
We do not have anything allocated. This is something that we could have a discussion on. I also would recommend that we look at splitting that cost as well.
Yeah, I would say, I just, $20,000 even for one is a lot of money for the city to absorb. That we need to have at least a match somehow. Maybe it's a three-way match. I don't know what that looks like, but that's a lot for the city to absorb. That's my opinion.
Is this something we could look into, the staff could look into getting some sort of matching funding for? So that we'll have a little better idea if, I like matching funding, we can do that, I'd be more interested in doing this.
Why don't, well, your one question, I'm in favor of improvements every year, if we can work it in the budget. You said, what do we want to see? I don't know the limits of what we can do, but as long as it's fiscally fine, I would like to see improvements all the time for the youth, and I think it's an attraction. But of course, there's limits to it. But why couldn't, since it's Allegan Youth Baseball Organization, I remember growing up that it was all the parents and everyone got together, and why couldn't we rent all the equipment and dig up the field and do it? I'm assuming we could do it properly, but with the right equipment, I don't see why we couldn't get volunteers and with the parents.
So they are getting a discounted price from Westling, and some of the stone dust, I believe, is being donated. But yeah, I fall in the same camp as you will. I remember many a Saturday mornings working for my kids, so. And they do too. I mean, they volunteer coach, they volunteer umpire, et cetera, but.
That also brings up, when Melanie and I, one of the people that met with us talked about, why is that not organized like, sharing the responsibility with Allegan Township and Trowbridge, or, I don't know.
Yeah, so what you're referring to, I believe, sorry, Melanie, but a recreation authority, I believe, is what was discussed, if I recall what I read in the paper. We've discussed the idea of a recreation authority with the Public Spaces Commission a handful of times. We've had conversations with Allegan Public Schools about a recreation authority. South Haven has one. Zealand doesn't have a recreation authority, but it just runs through their school system, and the residents every 10 years vote for a recreation millage to fund all their recreation activities throughout their school district. Not just the high school sports, but, the recreation sports. I don't know why we can't get off the starting block with that. I brought it up to multiple entities. You have to have multiple entities, first of all. The city can't just say, we're gonna do a recreation authority. So if we're the only ones with a megaphone screaming for it, it's not gonna go anywhere. Yeah, so,
Yeah, I can say, my time previously on council, I know Joel has talked with all those entities trying to get something off the ground with a recreation authority, and it doesn't. He has meetings and everybody thinks it's a great idea, but it doesn't get off the ground.
And they're not interested because the city pays for everything.
Correct.
Well, that was gonna be my question.
Why would they if we're already paying
Yep.
for it?
Yep.
But if the state determined that it was township property, who takes it over?
so the city owns the property.
Right, yeah, I know,
It's just
but
in the
like-
township, yeah.
Like if they said, nope, this is township, then what happens?
Yeah.
Do we say, hey, township, you're responsible, and then maybe, I don't know.
Yes, no, or if the city just says we're gonna stop mowing it, which would not ever be my recommendation, I'll be very clear. That is not a recommendation.
So then what I'm hearing is, could staff look for some grant matching opportunities?
So, yeah, I'm gonna cut you off and I
Oh,
apologize.
that's all right.
What I'm hearing for is, it seems like I haven't heard anyone say no yet to the idea. So what I've heard is, okay with one field. And okay if we partner on funding where the city's paying for 50%. Whether that be a grant
I
or
would
if that's
say
just a
even
member of the
35.
community, if the member of the community comes in.
I didn't say 50%,
Okay, so what's a match?
whatever you can get,
What can you
What if,
find out
what if
there?
I can only get 25%?
then we'll look at it and determine from there.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, so we aren't in a position where we are saying, this is our threshold of pain that we'll put into this.
I think we need to see what's out there. We're still in the middle of budget
Okay.
season and.
Yeah, staff probably is not gonna spend time looking for a grant for this. We're in the middle of budget season, and as we'll discuss through the budget season, there are a lot of other really high
I was
priorities.
gonna say, this year then, this is something that needs to be maybe discussed next year.
But if someone comes in and says, hey, here's 10,000, if a community member walks in tomorrow and says, I got 10,000, if the city does 10,
I wanna.
It's changed by, hey, here's some paperwork we need to fill out when you get this
Yeah.
done, great, let's
Yeah.
yeah.
throw some lines out.
I look at our finance director's face and I have full confidence in Tracy and I
So
don't,
$0?
I don't think it's a 50-50 match. We need to have more people have some interest in this than just the city.
Okay, and that's what I want to know. I want to know what your threshold of pain
That's
is.
just me. I'm looking at,
Yeah, and I think it's one of those things, if somebody comes in with 10,000, we can bring it before council and say, do we want to move forward, or, but I don't know why.
It was such a good job done with Mahan Park.
This would not qualify for patronicity. It's not located in the
I'm not saying
downtown.
that, Joel.
Okay,
If we could get some kind of
people, the community
community,
interested.
yeah,
Fundraising of,
Yes.
fundraising
yes.
on it,
And I think, I don't know why it's not the youth league that would drive it.
Well, and it's like, I think when it was the concept first became something, we were gonna have the, rocket football, all of these things, and at first they were, but now, like, rocket football is out at the high school. They've moved so many things. We've got soccer now out at the middle school, so it's like, all of that has shifted. So I don't know why, but it has shifted, so our schools are having those on their facilities instead of, what this was designed for.
That's interesting.
And I don't know what the ASO numbers are anymore, if those have, I know they were continuing to drop at one point, but I don't know what they are anymore. So,
What is that?
The youth soccer league.
Cali Youth Soccer.
Yeah. Yeah, and then they went to a travel team, and yeah, it's like, you know, times change and people, interests go differently, so, all right. Any other, Joel, do you need any other?
I'm not sure what the direction is. So
Lost?
I am lost.
So
Go ahead, Carl.
I think what we're looking for is the people that want to get this done, if they could talk to whoever, township, county, other places themselves, if they could come up with a good amount, we'd probably do some. So I think we're gonna throw it back to them and say, you come up with a good chunk of this funding and we'll cover the rest.
Yeah, I mean,
And I'm just letting you know that conversation's happened, and they said, we have 5,000, do you have 15?
Then I guess we're
no, I
not gonna
have
do it.
15.
Yeah, and that's why I'm asking council, what's your threshold of paying? And I understand what the finance director is saying, we're on the same page. We had this conversation.
5 is
Daily.
the city can match 5. That's my opinion.
That's fair. That's fair. I think it should be the driver to get the other townships involved.
Yeah, we could do 5, and they can get the township to do 5, and so forth. I think we're there.
Okay. I know it's a hard discussion, but that's why you guys ran for office. You have to make those decisions, and it's hard for me to go out and let the public know where you landed if it's, let's hear some more, because they're going to come back with, well, how much are you going to do? It's 5.
5? Nod, yes, no. Okay. All right. Any other thoughts, comments, disagreements? No? All right.
Does the city get any revenue from sports out there?
Yeah, so we get $15 per kid, and I believe Tracy will look that up very quickly on what that number was. And then we're also supposed to get from the soccer program, ASO, fee for them using our concession stand. And that's in the fee schedule that you'll see there. And
No.
no, we are
That's
not.
funny. Last year for user fees, which includes youth baseball and soccer, we brought in $5,585 in revenue.
5,000 is a good number then. Okay. All right, if there's nothing more on this agenda item, I'll move down to 11F1, which is a request to authorize the city manager to enter a contract with Carter Consulting regarding future reporting on the MEDC Grant for 109 Locust Street.
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, as I mentioned in my staff report, we received CDBG funding from the MEDC. CDBG is Community Development Block Grant funding. MEDC is the Michigan Economic Development Corporation to rehab/create 2 new apartments on the second floor of 109 Locust Street. As part of that grant, one of those units has to be an affordable unit for a term of 5 years. And so that requires us to do income verifications, review the leases, and then submit that information to the state to verify that one of them will be made available to someone who makes, I believe it's 120% of the area median income. We would like to contract with Carter Consulting to do that work for us. Carter Consulting is Kim Carter. She has been our certified grant administrator on all of the downtown rehab projects since I've been here. That includes Lumberman Lofts, 113 Locust, and 109 Locust. And we've had no issues, and we have no findings when we are audited by the state after she does the work. So I believe her total fee for the next 5 years is going to be $80. And so while that's well below my spending threshold of $10,000, it is a contract, and council has to approve contracts.
I will make a motion that we approve, or authorize the city manager to enter into the contract with Carter Consulting.
Okay. It's been moved and supported. Is there any discussion amongst council? Questions?
Yes. I'm missing something. I don't understand the relationship between 109 Locust, the city. Why are we bearing the cost of the consulting? I don't get it.
Sure. So 109 Locust Street is property on Locust, something sweet for you is the candy store on the first floor. The second floor was a blighted vacant unit. The city applied to the state of Michigan for a community development block grant to create 2 apartments on the second floor. We received that grant. As part of that grant, we have to ensure that one of those units stays affordable, and that cost falls on the city to do that annual reporting. All grants we get, and it's why I kind of bristled when the previous conversation about let's get a grant, all grants come with strings. And like specifically, I enjoy going for USDA grants because we're really good at getting USDA grants. They have the most strings attached to them. And as you see my finance director's face, whenever I tell her, guess what I got? She's like, oh, because it's so much work. So this is why this ongoing income verification and lease verification falls on the city's shoulders because it's a city grant. The city is the recipient of the grant.
And it's only for 5 years.
It's for 5 years.
And then it's done. This
Yeah,
requirement is
that
over.
requirement is done.
That wouldn't be the property owner.
No, the property owner did not receive the grant. The city did.
To help, yeah, with the blight, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, okay.
Yeah. Okay, any other questions? No? All right, it's been moved and supported. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no? All right, motion passes. And at 6:51, I would like to take a quick break, please, and be back here at 7. Do we need to have a motion for that? Or can I call that myself?
We can go into recess, right? You can go into recess.
Okay. Oh, I
Thankfully, the
forgot.
attorney's
He's
here.
I forgot.
Yeah, you're declaring recess at 6:51, come back at 7.
Okay.
Thank you.
I will bring the City of Allegan City Council meeting out of recess. And we will go to agenda item 11F2, which is a discussion regarding the process for selling city-owned property.
Thank you, Mayor. At your previous meeting, the mayor requested that I add this to the agenda. Some other council members, I think, reached out to her. They've also talked to me. But it was the mayor at the last meeting who said, Joel, put it on the agenda for discussion. So, since I have showed up to the City of Allegan back in 2017, we have sold several properties that the city has owned and was not using for governmental purposes. So if it's a parking lot, like a downtown public parking lot, that's a government use. City Hall, government use, parks, police station, wastewater plant, water plant, et cetera. Those are all government uses. However, we did own several properties, or the DDA owned a property that we would go through and end up selling in my time here. Some of those properties, as I mentioned in the staff report, the high was one we sold for $92,000. That was where the old Welcome Center was. It was a fully functional Class A office building. We sold it to a hairstylist who then gutted it and rehabbed it to their needs, which was perfectly fine, and it's a nice place to get your hair cut if you get your hair cut downtown somewhere. Then we sold vacant land that we owned just east of Sherman Street, south of M89, M40, next to the cemetery, the discount grocery store located there. We sold that for $10,000. Then across the street, we sold a vacant parcel just south of the bowling alley to Safe Harbor for $1. We have sold a handful of vacant parcels in the industrial park, around $3,000 a piece. We have sold 136 Brady Street, which was owned by the city in the early 2000s, then sold to the Children's Museum of Fenville for a couple of years. They couldn't get anything going. They sold it back to when I say City of Allegan, that was DDA. Came back to DDA, and then that was my first project when I was here. We went out to bid. It was a 30-day RFP. Only one bid came in. They offered $1. We had some provisions in that contract that they had to finish and fully rehab it because it was a blighted building at the time. Just the front facade and the windows and doors was the only thing that was worth value on it. Everything else was complete gutted. And then most recently, we've been approached by Tantric Brewing to purchase a 2-acre parcel on Low Street that is contaminated. They've offered to purchase it for $1, which has followed past practices. And in preparation of the report, Finance Director Tracy Stahl reminded me that the city does have, some guidelines that we can follow when we want to sell property. However, item number 6 in that policy also states that the guidelines are not intended to bind the city council in the exercise of its discretion in disposing of city-owned property, and that we can vary from these guidelines. And this is in your report, and we do vary from this time to time. Sometimes we have to be surgical when it comes to disposing property. Sometimes when we are negotiating and attracting businesses or doing economic development at its core, we've got to get creative. The screen, and I've been working on this project now for about 9 months. And what's on the screen now is image of the bowling alley, which is the black roof that you see up there. Can you give me the laser pointer again? I can't do it left-handed. I'm no good at this. So the bowling alley property is right there. It's been purchased by another gentleman. I believe he is from the Zealand area. His plan is to demolish the bowling alley. They've already sold off all the equipment and everything on the inside. Demolish the bowling alley, build 2 standalone multi-unit commercial structures along the west border. that would be the east, the west border up and down, and then the south border where Parker's cursor is right now. And then probably a third structure standalone up where the bowling alley is. To make this project a reality, they are gonna have to secure the blue shaded former, or not former, it's current, the blue shaded current right-of-way that the city has when Sherman Street used to go straight north and south back in, long time ago, before the city did the bend in it. The yellow area and the pink area combine that is a single city parcel of which Sherman Street, the new Sherman Street is on. You can see Parker's cursor, and 115th Avenue is on. So to make this project happen, we are gonna have to vacate the blue area. And for new council members, when we vacate a right-of-way, half of it goes to one property owner on one side and half goes to the other. So the bowling alley is gonna get half of that right-of-way. And then the city is gonna absorb the other half into that big parcel we have, of which Sherman Street is on and 115th is on. And then he is gonna want to purchase the blue and purple area from the city. So every property sale that the city does, and this is just, me speaking as a city manager, and when we're negotiating economic development deals and agreements, sometimes we can't just put a for sale sign out in the yard and see what is the best offer we get. Because then we don't get the best project the city deserves. And so as we go into this discussion on how we want to sell properties, the guidelines are in your packet. Those guidelines were established by the previous council in 2018, so 1 year after I was here. I do know we ran into issues. The biggest issue we ran into was with the discount grocery store, when there was a group of residents that wanted to outbid the person that was buying it. They offered $10,000. They said we can pay the city $20 because nothing should ever go here. But the city council at that time said, no, we need to grow as a city. We need development to continue to occur. It is on a state trunk line. It makes sense to have a grocery store at this location. So that's part of the whole mindset, Mayor. And so you've asked me to put this on the agenda. I gave you a report. I've tried to identify what I thought I needed to identify. And with that, that's the summary of my report.
Thank you. Yeah, and I was on council with the grocery outlet discussion. And, I mean, I shop there. I'm sure many other council members shop there, and it is busy all the time. I'm very, very thankful that we have that in the community. But I'm gonna open this up. I mean, I added this. I know, Bill, you weren't able to be here at the last meeting, and you may have some comments,
I do.
discussion you would like to bring up.
Does that yellow become landlocked?
So that yellow there's Sherman Street beneath that, so it's a road. That's Sherman. So when you come off M89 and you're going south on Sherman, let's say you're going to Blessed Sacrament, that's that little, what I'm gonna call S-curve.
I've always looked at maps with the top being north, so we're.
The top is north.
Pardon me?
The top is north.
So you've got,
That's M89 right up there.
you going,
Okay.
yeah.
And then you turn on to Sherman Street right there, and it does a little S-curve
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
before it
so
straightens
this
out
is
again.
Yep.
Straight, that's Sherman Street. The
Understand.
old Sherman Street.
See, I'm just worried about this. Goodrich comes behind here.
Yeah, so Goodrich is on the far, where Parker's arrow is. Thank you for doing that.
Okay, just it. And what have they offered?
Right now,
To me, all property has value. I don't believe in giving property away. I just don't believe it. It's not, to me, it's not a good idea. For, number one, getting your tax base back just by saying, okay, well, we're gonna give that, and they're gonna do taxes, well, if it's worth $50,000 most tax you're gonna receive out of that from the city is $700, it's gonna take forever to recuperate that $50,000.
Is there any sort of,
I don't know what the value of that is, but,
Well, this one, I think with this specific example, what we're looking at here is probably when this road got moved, that should have been dealt with at that time.
I don't have a problem with that, but it has a
And,
value, Carl.
and no, I'm just saying that, and now, now that we're gonna deal with it now, basically half that blue automatically belongs to the bowling alley, right? Is gonna, because that's how.
Yeah, well, when we vacate
So
that,
we're
correct.
gonna own the pink
Yep, we'll
and
own-
half the
Pink and the
blue.
yellow will be ours,
The yellow is already ours, and that's a road.
correct?
And I think the pink and what we will then own of the blue is probably not gonna be big enough to do anything with, because of the road right there.
You probably are correct, yeah. With zoning setbacks.
And that's,
area
and that's why
coverage.
I would assume it's not worth much.
Well, you have a process to go through, and it doesn't seem to me that no one's ever followed this process. The thing on Low Street, nobody knew about that for being for sale. All of a sudden, you come up here and Tantric comes up here and says, oh, we want it for $1.
it's because Tantric, I mean, my understanding, and Tanya from Tantric Brewing, my question to her, which she answered before I even asked it, and I know you weren't able to be here, Bill, but I wanted to understand how she knew about
Yeah,
its availability.
exactly.
And Tanya had been talking with the city 18 months ago, I believe she said, because they knew they were going to need more storage and outgrow the storage, and they want to keep their business, all parts of their business in the city of Allegan. And so they
Understand.
had talked with the city beforehand.
Understand that part, but if you go against, I mean, it's totally going against any of our guidelines.
Well, is it really spelled out clearly enough,
In the
the
guidelines?
rationale, no, the rationale.
Right there.
Why, yeah,
Number
but-
6.
the rationale to say whether it's $1 or 92,000 or somewhere in between, what,
It had, originally, that dollar sale stood out for, up at the industrial park. The property up there was set up so that people would bring into our community more jobs. Building a pole barn on a lot is not gonna bring more jobs into our community.
You don't know that.
Okay, building a pole barn up on there to do storage for beer is not gonna bring any more jobs into our community.
That was
That's
the
my
start
saying.
of the project. There's more to it. And
Then that should be brought in front of the council. None of that has been brought up to the council.
I think, well, let's get back to the procedure. Section 6 is very clear to me. There is discretion, and that's what we're here to do, is to talk through that discretion. If this policy needs to be revised, then we need to look at the policy to revise it. I am one that, this property may have been sitting there for I don't know how many years, and it's contaminated. The city should not own any property that's not government or public use, and we need to get it off our books. That's how I look at things, and it's the city staff's job to do economic development growth, and that's how I see, what I see they do. And I know not only, I don't want to pick on Tantric, but they, talk to a lot of other business owners that they come to the city and say, hey, city, what can you do? This is what I want to do to grow my business. And I hope that all business owners, whether they're current or potential, come to City Hall, talk to the city manager, talk to city staff. What can you do? What do you have available? And Tantric did that.
Okay. Because, why? How did he know about it? From being on the planning commission?
No.
And being on council?
Nope, they,
Disagree.
well,
But that's my personal point,
well,
okay?
but now you're getting into ethical questions, Bill.
Correct.
or
That's the other
Mayor
thing.
Pro Tem, Morgan, and I do not believe in any of that. But
So,
let's get
if
back
my
to-
recollection, just to answer that question, Mayor Pro Tem Morgan, if my recollection serves me correctly, the city went through a public notice process,
On
of
Low
which it
Street.
was reported in the paper when we sold the 2 acres on Low Street to ASA. So.
That did go through,
So
yes.
we have to, whenever you guys, 13.9 of the city charter stipulates how city council sells property. And we have to notice it for 3 consecutive weeks. I'm looking at Michaela for just agreement or correction. We have to notice it for 3 consecutive weeks. So anybody that took time to read the paper would have saw this happening. People who took time to follow the city council would have saw that whole process happening. And then after ASA did their environmental reviews, after they secured it, realized that they would have to put in vapor barriers to build the 2 houses through their home building program. And they called me and said, we ain't doing this. Will you guys please just take this back? And I think I came back to city council saying, we're gonna just receive this back. We quit claimed it to them. They turned around and did a quit claim back to us. So I'm not gonna say how people came to conclusions on what was available, not available, but that is a process. And then I would also say, I am constantly, as the mayor is pointing out, the number of existing businesses downtown saying, hey, what can we do to be better? What can we do to grow? We get those phone calls, those meetings, sometimes those complaints, because somehow the city is stopping them from growing regularly. And so I would offer that, you know, if you want to know what can the city do for you, people do call us often, and we pick up those phone calls and we have those conversations.
And can I just say, I have been on planning commission with councilperson Westover, and this property has never come up at planning commission.
Okay.
So as far as I can recollect, he did not learn about its availability through planning commission.
Well, we as council members have to act in the public's interest.
Yeah.
And I don't think it's a public interest to sell something for nothing.
Okay, well, that's why I said, do we need to look at this policy?
We do.
So for this particular,
yeah.
so for this particular thing, I would just like more information. So we have some property that might be worth nothing, might be worth something. Nobody's presented anything to say what it's worth. We also have a business owner that wants to take this place and apparently create more jobs and more revenue, and I would like to see the details of that. Then I'd like to compare those 2 items so we can come up with what it's actually worth. And maybe it is worth it to sell it for $1. If we have a good plan that's coming up, then there's gonna be, if it's worth it to the city. But if we come back with something that says it's worth a lot of money and we don't see a plan that looks like it's gonna bring very many jobs, then maybe it should be sold for a little more than that. But without any of that information, how am I supposed to make that decision? And I think if Bill had all that information in front of him, he would have an easier time making this decision.
You're correct. I would.
So I'd like to see that.
What I don't want to do is get in a bidding war.
No, I'm not saying I want a bidding war.
That's what I'm afraid is we're headed for.
I was just gonna say, so the only other option is to advertise it.
No,
And-
the option would be to get a hold of some sort of a realtor, somebody who can evaluate what property's actually worth and get a value.
Well, and they also need to understand the cleanup to develop anything
Exactly.
on there.
Not all
Exactly.
projects need to be cleaned up. That's why he wants it.
But that's why we need to get more information.
Get into a bidding war
Okay.
with people.
I know of someone else that would like to buy that.
That's
Because-
what I'm wondering. Anyhow, Councilperson Walker, sorry, Councilperson Canales,
Understand, Tracy?
Yes, please.
So it does sound like we did not advertise after we got the quit claim deed back, we got the property back. Did that go out for another 30 days before?
Just for clarification, this property has never been for sale. And anybody can petition their local government. And that is what happened. A petition occurred to the local government. That's probably one of the great foundations of home rule cities and local government in America. You're allowed to walk up to the podium and speak. Well, you're not allowed to walk up to the podium in Washington DC and speak to Congress directly. Here, you're allowed to. And so that's what's happened, and that's what's happened multiple times. Milbacher purchased property. Kyle Ellis, the CEO, president of Milbacher, contacted me because, Joel, the city owns whatever it is, acreage next to my property where Millbacher is located on 29th Street. I said, how in the world does the city own property out in the township that's landlocked? Because they are at the end of 29th Street. I know where Millbacher's facility is. He goes, I don't know, but I just did a property search, and you guys own it. I'd like it. I'm like, okay, well, you're allowed to send a letter to city council asking to buy it. And he sent a letter, he says, I'll give you guys $3,000 for it. And I went, he's offering $3,000. There was no negotiation. There was no for sale. It was straight up. The same with the safe harbor for $1. If we'd have accepted bids on that, I am pretty sure there would have been a commercial developer that would have came in and said, 1 block off 222 Estate Trunk Line, here's $70,000, and we're going to put, an Arby's here. But the council at that time said, no, Joel, let's find a way. Let's not go out for bid for this. And I'll push back to all the council members. You are following the policy. Item number 6 is very clear in that policy. These guidelines are not intended to bind city council in the exercise of its discretion in disposing of city-owned property. So what we have done historically, I'm not saying going forward, but what council has done historically has followed these guidelines. It's been very clear, because at any time, council could have said, I'm not comfortable with this, let's do it.
Joel, do we need supermajority or just majority to?
To sell property, you need a supermajority.
All right,
And I'm
I
looking at the
think-
city attorney for that one, and I got a head
I
nod.
think 3 of the council people up here, we've had experience with selling property as council members. Councilperson Zeter, you've been on council and approved, yeah. Councilperson, or Mayor Pro Tem Morgan, yeah, as well, okay. Sorry.
No, that's fine, that's good. But it's obviously a slippery slope. I mean, it can, in the situation, any resident then could definitely feel, let's take, Safe Harbor. I'm not saying it was wrong or anything. Maybe would have done the same thing myself, but can any resident, are they afforded the same opportunities? Yes, they can come and petition. But is that general now? It seems a little awkward, and it seems like maybe we need to look at it a little
See,
deeper.
most people don't know any of that stuff. Well, I mean, that's, you have to be in the loop on that kind of stuff to know that. The people that I was talking to didn't know that they could come here to the city hall to just discuss and want to buy some properties. They all go, oh, shoot, for $1, I'll buy it. Well, that's beside the point. I don't think it's worth a lot more than $1.
But I do want to defend Tantric, though, because by putting something up for storage, it may open up their existing facility for further development.
They have a place downtown already for storage.
Well, yeah, but
And they
who's
can
say
add to that.
what's enough?
I would just like to,
20 more acres out by.
Well,
Mr. Dye,
All right, point of order, please.
Mr. Dye, do we know the purchase price on that parcel?
On Low Street?
Yeah.
The last time the city chose to sell it, they sold it for $1 to ASA.
Councilperson Canales, you had?
I just wanted to point out that I never said anything about, at least today, never said anything about putting it up for bid.
Okay.
All I'm saying is I want to know what the property's worth, and I want to know what value specifically the business that's going to be going in there is going to bring to the city, so I can compare the two and decide if it's worth selling it for $1. It might very well be. I just want to know I want to know this information before I vote on it. That's it. And I'm guessing, being it's contaminated, there's a good chance it might be worth doing this deal.
I know of another area that was contaminated. It's on Water Street, where the current Payroll building is. I know because the property that was sold to that happened to belong to my father. And underneath, we had a buried gas tank. Underneath the gas tank, it was not contaminated. They went down another 20 feet, found contamination. City bought that for $14,000. I don't know what they sold it to whomever it for, or if they gave it to them or what. That was a while back.
So is that something that staff can look into? The value on that piece of property?
So there's multiple ways to determine value. One is you can look at the assessing database, and they just say what the land value is. The other thing is to pay for a professional appraiser to appraise the site. My question is, again, threshold of paying for council, how much are you willing to spend for an appraiser?
Not spending any money, but that's my vote.
What was the other way?
We can look at an assessing to see what we value land at and that ECF.
That's fine with me.
The assessed value on that property, when it was last assessed in 2017, was $15,900.
Okay.
Now, when they assess that, do they take into account that it's contaminated, or is it just a generic?
Nope, when they're looking at it, they're just looking at the square footage, multiply that by the ECF value for that area for land.
So you definitely would then have to take a look at it and say, a lot of uses, it would be very expensive to develop. So it's gonna be limited, so it wouldn't necessarily be worth the 15,000, I wouldn't think.
Correct.
It'd be worth
I have no
less.
problem with the city selling property for less than what its value is.
Right.
I don't want it to give it away.
Right.
I don't think that's the stewardship that we as a council should be doing.
Well, I want to say, I don't think the city is giving property away.
For a
And I
dollar?
think to go out and tell people, because I also was asked, oh, wow, the city is selling buildings for $1. And I said, no, we are not selling buildings for $1. So this is how rumors get started and with people not understanding.
Well, I don't understand.
So-
If somebody gives me a check for $1 to buy something, they just bought it for $1.
So, all right, so Carl, I know you had asked to be able to make an informed decision. You wanted to know the value. 15,000. I mean, this can still come in front of council?
Yeah.
If somebody comes and petitions again, asks?
If it was uncontaminated, it'd be worth 15,000, it's contaminated, so it's worth significantly less.
I mean,
So then I would like to know from the business that's looking to buy it, how many jobs are you looking at? What's your?
Off the top of my head, I can't give you that number. What I can tell you, since we opened from day one, we had 1 employee, now we have 20. And we're expanding. That's our plan. So there's gonna be more.
And maybe that should be,
And so real quick, I'm gonna be the city manager. It's completely inappropriate and borderline unethical for questions to be directed towards Councilmember Westover based off his ownership. If council would like to make a motion, have support, and have it passed directing staff to gather information, staff can get it. But I think we're crossing the line that you shouldn't cross, my
I-
friends.
Because, I mean, and just for people who may not have been at at the previous council meeting, when Tanya Westover came, Councilperson Westover stepped out of the room. It was all done in an ethical way. Tanya represented the business, and Patrick was not here for that. So I want to apologize for kind of putting you in this position.
Yeah, I agree. Would like to apologize to Patrick for us putting you in a box like that and putting you on the spot. But I would like to see staff get that information for us so we can make this decision.
Is that a motion?
Yeah, I'll make that a motion.
Support.
Can you clarify? Sorry, can you clarify exactly what you're asking staff to get?
Carl, can you state your motion with the actionable?
Let me try. We'd like to see the information as to what the property's worth. Noted in there that it'd be worth less than what that was listed at because it's contaminated. We'd like to see some information from the people looking to purchase it as to an estimate as to how it may improve jobs. And maybe even also something from staff saying how much this could generate in tax revenue. I think once we have all of that, we can make an educated decision.
All right,
I support.
okay. It's been moved and supported. Those in favor, oh,
Can you open it up for discussion?
yes, I would like to have discussion.
I'd like to amend the motion. Is it possible to add the cost of remediation? Estimated cost of remediation.
So, Michaela, I'm going to lean on you a little bit. I believe what your action is, a motion to amend the motion to add the cost of remediation per Robert's rules.
Support.
All right,
You got that, Michaela? Rock and roll.
okay. How do I even say this?
Now you're calling for a vote on the
Amended motion?
on the amended
How
motion
about discussion
or discussion.
Yes, discussion on that.
Oh,
on the amendment?
okay, so the
What difference does that make as far as what the cost of remediation is? It's gonna be onto the buyer for that, no matter what. So I don't think that should be anything as far as the cost of selling it.
Well,
You
those
can
are
use it to,
facts.
is a fact, yes. You can use it to assess that value
Okay.
and see where the,
The other thing is some places you don't need to have the remediation. In your case, you do not have to have the remediation, or if anybody building a pole barn, they do not have to have any remediation. So that is a non-consequence.
It should still be, it's just a fact of,
Yeah, that's why I said we need to make note in there that it is of lesser value because it is contaminated.
if someone wanted to put a home there, obviously it has to be.
Yeah, they'd have to be
already know
remediated,
that.
and I would assume the value then is gonna way exceed the value of the property.
Correct.
So for that person, it would be worthless, and wouldn't be even worth $1.
But we also can't just assume that because we know who wants to buy it, so we
Correct.
need to put everything together, and if
But
it's gonna
we-
cost $15,000 for remediation, then that needs to be taken into account.
We all know that it's contaminated. We all know that it'll have remediated. We all know that the only thing that we can build there has to be above ground. So what difference does it make?
I don't know. I mean, we can't answer that
I
here.
think he's trying to put a sharper point on the idea that
Sell it for
it's
a
gonna
dollar.
be worth less than the, what's the term? The value that we're currently looking at?
The fair market value.
Yeah, the fair market. It's gonna be less than that, the paperwork that we're referencing.
Any other discussions, comments? All right, so we have the amended motion on the table has also been seconded by Councilperson Zeter. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
No?
So it's been added to the regular motion. Now you vote on the motion.
Okay. All right, now we're going to go back and vote on the original motion that was, I believe that was Carl and Melanie. All right. Councilperson Walker, sorry. All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? No. All right, motion passes. All right, let's move down to agenda item 11F2, or 11F3, is an update on the public restrooms at City Hall and the Riverfront.
Thank you, Mayor. At your previous meeting, I believe it was in January, or first one in February, City Council requested that we reopen all the restrooms from 7 a.m. to 11 p.m., 7 days a week, and that we continue to have them monitored via video cameras and our police, and to report back to council. I'm reporting back to council. Since you've made that decision, we've had no issues here at the City Hall restrooms. However, we've had 2 individuals that were caught sleeping in the Riverfront restrooms and were trespassed from the facilities. That is the report.
Any comments, questions from council? No? All right, I'm glad to hear it's improved. That's good. 11F4 is a request from Allegan Folklife Organization to place a banner on the Jaycee Park skate park fence to advertise their annual festival.
Thank you, Mayor. This came in this morning at 11:42 or so. They would like to place a banner on the fence at the skate park. They called me last week, or stopped in last week, asked me to approve it. I informed them I don't have the authority to approve signage on city property for non-city events. that a request has to come into council. They said, well, it's too late for that, and then today they brought in a request. So that request is in there. I believe Michaela printed off or made copies of the letter, and they are at your individual spots. Thank you.
All right, I noticed, well, can I get a motion to approve the banner to be hung on the fence at Jaycee Park?
Yeah, make a motion.
Support.
All right, it's been moved and supported. Is there any discussion amongst council, questions on the request? No, so the letter doesn't say when they will put it up. It just says it won't be there the entire time.
Once you approve it, I suspect it'll be up immediately.
Okay, all right, I was just thinking about the old banner that we used to have. It seemed like there was times that people could
Yeah, we
put it
used,
up.
when the city had a place, we actually put times on it. This is through the end of March, correct?
Yes,
So
Yep.
2 weeks, roughly.
all right.
I would just, if you're gonna vote in favor of it, I would just vote as the letter was presented.
Okay, all right. All right, there is the motion, there's a motion and that has been, made and supported. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion passes. All right, let's move down to agenda item number 13, to do public comment. If you have public comment, please approach the podium, state your name, and we limit that to 3 minutes. I do not see any new people for public comment, so I do not believe we have any. So I will move down to agenda item number 15, or 14, sorry. I'm all over the place. Communications from the city manager. Joel, do you have anything?
I do not believe so.
All right. Okay, down to number 15 is roundtable discussion from council and mayor. I will start with the councilperson Canales. Okay, councilperson Hooker.
Nothing other than, well, I did go down to the Cabin Fever and had a great time with I saw a few of you there, but I'm really into the New Orleans jazz thing, so that was really fun.
Councilperson Zeter.
What is happening down at the dam in the Mill District?
Yes, so council may recall that you approved a contract with Milbacher to begin work down there. Right now, it's just staging. We are still waiting on a permit from Eagle to perform work in a waterway. Quick reminder for all of council what this project is. We will be installing sheet walls along the southern bank of the river and just west of the dam or upstream from the dam. This is kind of like the first phase of getting ready to remove the dam while at the same time protecting the dam. We have done an underwater investigation of the powerhouse, and then if that comes back favorably, we will begin the demolition of the powerhouse structure above the water, but the dam structure underwater would stay. So it'll just be a flat foundation on the Kalamazoo River. So that's what's going on down there right now, Councilmember Zeter.
Have you put out to sell the old generators?
We have not.
Because some years ago, they sold the one kind of on a pedestal by the river.
Okay. I know when I first arrived here in 17, I had some gentleman from Wisconsin that wanted to buy it for $1. And at that time, we didn't have a plan for the river dam powerhouse, so we just said, thank you, no thank you, but he did want it for $1. We did also have a gentleman in 19, pre-COVID, the gentleman that restored the old Regent Theater projector, wanted us to give it to him for him to restore, and we had plenty of vacant buildings downtown, in his words, where we could just put in one of those vacant buildings the city owns and it could be restored there. I informed him the city owns no vacant buildings downtown.
Okay.
All right, Councilperson Westover? All right. Councilperson Walker.
Do not have any.
Okay. Mayor Pro Tem Morgan.
In discussion with that generator, can that be, sold for scrap?
No idea. We've discussed,
It's gotta be about 800 tons, but
I don't, I would be shocked if it's 800 tons. That's 160.
I'm just
Yeah,
kidding.
okay, good. I was like, that'd be very helpful, yeah, heavy then. We've discussed this in the past with council. When you approve a construction project, the
Okay.
spoils go to the contractor.
Yep.
So unless we have something in there where we can take it, I will go ahead and I will make a note, since two council members brought it up, and I'll talk to Kyle Ellis from Milbacher and, see what that would be. Sometimes the juice isn't worth the squeeze. Mobility, having to hire another firm to remove it.
understand.
Cranes, storage.
I've forgotten about that.
Yeah, so, but I'll reach out to Kyle and see what his plans are. And who knows, that might have been part of his bid process on why he bid so cheap. Because this was a $2.8 million project and Milbacher came in at 1 point something. So
Okay, well, thank you.
we'll find out.
Other than that, I have nothing.
Okay. I just have a couple of things. I saw, Cabin Fever series. That was very good. Councilperson Canales and Councilperson Harker, I think we all enjoyed it. And the next one is it next weekend, coming up in a couple weeks?
Hey,
Okay, yeah, they're really great.
It's not this coming
Yeah,
Sunday.
they're a lot of
no,
fun.
it's not this coming Sunday.
The next one is Sunday, April 13th.
Okay,
Yep,
great.
Yeah.
2 o'clock.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you, Parker.
Yeah.
I did forget one thing.
Okay.
Bridge lights. They were off for 2 weeks or something?
Yeah, they were off for about a week. We're still awaiting parts to have them all
Because I see a section is
functioning. Yep.
not working, another panel or whatever.
Yeah, several pieces are ordered. They've been on back order for quite a bit of time. The equipment was installed in 2016, and the parts and pieces that were made then aren't readily available anymore. So they're special order.
Okay. So we're waiting for parts.
Correct.
Thank you.
And I got a couple more things. 131 Grove Street, I think that's the address, that was the home that was brought in front of council that was condemned. Noticed there was a lot of work being done, new windows put in. Has that property been sold or?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes, that property's been sold. It's the same gentleman that flipped a house on Park Avenue, which is the road that the water treatment plant is on. So he has a history of doing a pretty decent job, and we'll see how this works. We drove by there today, Parker and I did, on some other drive-arounds, and we saw them doing work out of the second floor window.
and then excluding the government and public purpose properties, how many properties does the city own that would be considered available for sale?
Okay, so I only have this number because Mayor Perigo asked me to have this number ready. So if you reach out to us before a meeting to say, hey, we can usually get that information for you. We do not have how much would be up for sale. We do have 104 parcels owned by the city of Allegan. And so what we're gonna do is we're gonna have Mohammed, who's our CEDAM fellow, go through this 104 and create 3 or 4 different columns. What's its current use, government, not government, parking lot, cemetery. It's probably just a handful that aren't government use, and of the handful, it's probably a handful that you could actually develop based off the map that I'm looking at.
Okay.
I mean,
And you'll have that noted, like,
Yeah.
this is something that could be developed,
yeah.
this is
I mean,
not.
one of the parcels we own is behind where, Councilmember, or Mayor Pro Tem Morgan lives, which is underwater.
Yeah,
The city owns it. That's useless. It's just a parcel we own, so the dam, useless. So
okay,
we can present that at the next council meeting
Okay.
if you want us to.
yeah, if you would add that, that would be great, thank you. All right, I do not have anything else, so I'm gonna move down to agenda item 16A, closed session pursuant to MCL 15268H to consider materials exempt from discussion or disclosure by state or federal statute, and this requires a motion, correct, to go into closed session? Can I get a motion?
I'll make a motion, Madam Mayor, that we go into closed session.
I was,
All right, it's been
Roll call vote.
moved and supported. And Michaela, will you do the roll call vote?
Yes. Councilmember Canales? Yes. Councilmember Hooker?
yes.
Councilmember Walker? Yes. Councilmember Westover?
Yes.
Councilmember Zeter?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Morgan?
Yes.
Mayor Perigo?
Yes.
Motion passes 7-0.
All right, thank you.